Level 1. Intelligence Archive Analyst. The door locks behind you at 3:17 a.m. You hear the bolt slide into place. Then the lights above the hallway turn red. Nobody explains what happened. Nobody needs to. Inside the SCP Foundation, red lights mean the truth has escaped somewhere it should not. You're standing 2 floors beneath Site 41 with a cardboard box in your hands, wearing a temporary badge that still says Provisional Staff. The box contains witness statements, police reports, deleted social media captures, recovered dashcam footage, and 3 sealed envelopes marked with black tape. Your supervisor points at the first desk. Sort everything by exposure risk. That is your welcome. At Level 1, you're an intelligence archive analyst, not a field agent, not a researcher, not security. You are the person who reads what the world almost discovered. Most Foundation personnel think containment starts with steel doors and armed guards. You learn the truth during your first week. Containment starts with paperwork. A farmer in Nebraska sees something crawling out of a grain silo at 2:04 a.m. A nurse in Seoul records a patient speaking a language that does not exist. A teenager in Brazil uploads 14 seconds of impossible footage before the video disappears. Your job is to decide which reports are hallucinations, which are hoaxes, and which are the beginning of a containment breach. The first rule is written on the wall above your workstation. Information is an anomalous vector. You do not understand it at first. Then you read Incident Report 41-778. A schoolteacher sees an anomalous symbol during a museum trip. She tells her husband. Her husband sketches it at work. A co-worker dreams about it. Within 72 hours, 9 people require amnestic treatment, 2 require long-term observation, and 1 is transferred to a psychiatric cover facility under a false name. Nobody touches the anomaly. They only know about it. That is enough. Every file you read teaches the same lesson. The Foundation does not only hide monsters, it hides knowledge that behaves like one. At first, you feel important. You catch patterns older analysts miss. A repeated number in 3 separate police reports. A missing weather record near a containment zone. A journalist asking the wrong question in the wrong town. Your supervisor notices. Then the pressure begins. You work 13-hour shifts. You sign memory compliance forms every Friday. You cannot take notes home. You cannot mention names. You cannot ask why a file disappears from the system after you flag it. One night, you open a witness report from a woman who sees Foundation personnel remove her husband from their apartment. The report says she receives Class B amnestics. The attached medical note says she asks for him again every morning for 6 days. You stare at the page longer than you should. Your supervisor appears behind you. Do not personalize exposure events. That is the second rule. People are not people once they become risks. You hate that rule. For now. Level 2. Surveillance Support Officer. The first person you erase is not a criminal. He is a bus driver. His name is Daniel Mercer, 46 years old, divorced, 1 daughter, clean record, good attendance, no political connections, no anomalous exposure history until 7:42 p.m. on a Tuesday, when his route passes 3 blocks from a containment failure in Portland. He sees too much. A maintenance tunnel opening where no tunnel exists. 4 armed Foundation personnel escorting a covered object into an unmarked vehicle. A child standing in the rain without blinking for 9 minutes. Daniel does what ordinary people do now. He records it. At Level 2, you become a surveillance support officer. You're no longer only reading files. You're watching lives turn into files in real time. Your office is a room without windows, filled with 12 monitors and a map of civilian exposure zones. You track witnesses, journalists, missing person forums, conspiracy channels, police radio traffic, encrypted posts, hospital intake reports, and private security footage purchased through shell companies. The Foundation sees more than governments think it sees. Not everything. Enough. Your first assignment is Daniel Mercer. You watch his phone location. You watch his search history. You watch him replay the video 7 times in his kitchen while his daughter does homework at the table. You watch him hesitate before uploading it. Your handler stands behind you with a coffee cup. Call the response team. You know what that means. A disinformation unit floods local feeds with a gas leak cover story. A media contact buries 2 posts. A medical team intercepts Daniel on his next route and administers amnestics under the cover of a minor traffic accident. By morning, Daniel does not remember the tunnel. His daughter remembers him acting strange. That creates a secondary exposure note. You flag it. Your handler nods. Good. That word feels worse than criticism. At level 2, usefulness is measured by how fast you remove uncertainty from the world. A witness becomes a target packet. A rumor becomes a containment concern. A memory becomes a contaminant. You learn the hidden hierarchy of Foundation intelligence. Archives collect the truth. Surveillance locates it. Field teams remove it. Counterintelligence hunts the people trying to steal it. Internal security decides when Foundation personnel become the threat. Everyone answers upward. Nobody answers outward. Mistakes cost more now. An analyst can misfile a report. A surveillance officer can lose a witness. And a lost witness can become a leak. You see this happen in Oslo. A student photographs an anomalous recovery team through a train window. The first upload gets deleted in 90 seconds. The second goes to a private server. The third reaches someone using chaos insurgency encryption protocols. Your room goes silent. That is the first time you see fear on your handler's face. Not fear of the anomaly. Fear of another organization knowing where to look. By the end of level 2, you understand the real currency of the Foundation. Not money. Not weapons. Not containment cells. Memory. Who keeps it? Who loses it? Who controls what remains? Level 3. Field Intelligence Operative. The witness is crying before you enter the room. That makes it harder. You expected anger. Anger is easy. Fear is useful. Confusion can be shaped. But grief slows everything down. At level 3, you become a field intelligence operative. You leave the screens. You enter the aftermath. Your first deployment takes you to a town in northern Montana after a minor containment failure involving an entity the local police describe as a tall man made of television static. The Foundation already retrieves the anomaly. MTF Epsilon 6 secures the woods. Researchers collect residue samples. Your team handles what remains: witnesses, evidence, stories. The public version becomes a chemical spill from an overturned truck. Your job is to make reality fit that lie. You arrive wearing a federal disaster response jacket with a fake agency name printed across the back. You carry a tablet loaded with cover forms, medical waivers, edited photographs, and amnestic dosage approvals. The first witness is an old mechanic named Harold. He sees the entity take his neighbor. Not kill, not attack. Simply remove him from the world in a flash of white static. Harold keeps asking where the neighbor is. You know the answer. There is no recoverable body. No confirmed death. No explanation that helps. So you sit across from him in a school gym converted into a temporary processing center and speak softly. You tell him shock creates false memories. You tell him the spill caused hallucinations. You tell him his neighbor likely leaves before the evacuation. He does not believe you. Then the nurse enters with the syringe. You sign the order. Harold forgets. You do not. Not yet. Fieldwork teaches you that containment is not only about force, it is theater, timing, body language, controlled compassion. You learn to stand near crying people without becoming responsible for their pain. You learn to speak with warmth while preparing to take something from them they did not consent to lose. That is the third rule. Mercy is only allowed when it protects containment. Your missions escalate. A museum in Lisbon where 12 visitors see a painting move. A hospital in Manila where 3 patients recover from death and start speaking in the same voice. A village in Iceland where every mirror reflects a different year. Each time, you arrive after the impossible and rebuild the ordinary. You become good at it. That is the danger. You stop hesitating before signing amnestic orders. You stop flinching when civilians ask questions you cannot answer. You stop correcting coworkers when they call witnesses loose ends. Then one night, during a cleanup in Warsaw, you find a Foundation badge inside a witness apartment. Not fake. Real. A surveillance technician from Site 19. His name is missing from the deployment list. His file is already restricted. Your team leader sees the badge in your hand. His expression changes. Do not log that yet. Level 4 begins before you understand why. Level 4. Counterintelligence agent. The traitor sits 3 desks from you. You know by lunch. You prove it by midnight. At level 4, you become a counterintelligence agent. The enemy changes shape. Before this, threats come from outside. Civilians, leaks, uncontained anomalies, groups of interest watching from the dark. Now the threat wears Foundation credentials. Your first counterintelligence case begins with the badge in Warsaw. A missing surveillance technician. A restricted file. A cleanup team told not to log evidence. 3 small irregularities that should not connect. They do. The technician is not dead. He is selling movement schedules to the chaos insurgency through dead drops disguised as municipal maintenance reports. His access is low, but low access is enough. 1 elevator shutdown, 1 shipment delay, 1 patrol route shifted by 12 minutes. People think betrayal starts with ideology. Inside the Foundation, betrayal usually starts with exhaustion, a sick child, a hidden debt, a memory someone once returned, a promise that another organization can give back what the Foundation takes away. Your job is to find the pressure point before they do. Counterintelligence works differently from field operations. You cannot simply accuse. Accusations create panic. Panic destroys evidence. So you watch quietly. You review badge logs, internal messages, cafeteria purchases, sleep patterns, medical requests, deleted drafts, unexplained overtime, and every hallway camera between storage level C and the west loading dock. You learn that Foundation personnel lie differently from civilians. Civilians lie to escape consequences. Foundation staff lie because they know consequences have categories: administrative, containment, disciplinary, terminal. The technician's handler is not chaos insurgency directly. It is a former Foundation logistics officer declared dead 3 years earlier. The meeting takes place beneath a closed subway station in Prague. You're there when the arrest happens. No gunfire, no speech. Just 3 MTF operators stepping out of darkness and the technician realizing his life has already left him. He looks at you. He knows you are the reason. For the first time, someone inside the Foundation fears you. That fear becomes reputation. At level 4, respect comes from precision. You are trusted because you catch things people bury. You are feared because nobody knows how much you already know. The moral line shifts again. Civilians losing memories once disturbed you. Now you authorize memory audits on Foundation staff. A junior researcher forgets a conversation she should not have overheard. A guard loses 6 hours after entering an unauthorized corridor. A logistics officer receives Class C amnestics because his brother works for a GOC-adjacent contractor. You tell yourself internal threats require internal sacrifices. The sentence sounds reasonable. That is how you know the system is learning to speak through you. Level 5. Blacksite Intelligence Handler. The informant refuses to enter the room until you turn off the camera. You do not turn it off. You only make the red light disappear. At Level 5, you become a blacksite intelligence handler. Your world moves beyond official Foundation facilities. Black sites exist in places maps avoid. An abandoned observatory in Chile, a sealed hospital wing in Estonia, a private storage facility under a false pharmaceutical company in New Jersey, a listening post beneath a monastery in the Alps. Each site has a purpose: interrogation, asset protection, anomalous communications, double agent management, things the official structure prefers not to describe clearly. You now handle sources inside hostile groups of interest: a clerk inside Marshall, Carter, and Dark Auction Logistics, a medic attached to a GOC strike team, a courier working near the Serpent's Hand, a frightened chaos insurgency accountant who knows where bodies, weapons, and stolen anomalies move before anyone else does. You never call them friends. That would be dangerous. You call them assets. That word keeps them at a distance. Your most valuable source is a woman named Irina Vale. She works inside a private anomalous brokerage network tied to MC&D. She provides auction dates, buyer lists, transportation routes, and the names of people rich enough to purchase objects that can ruin cities. Her intelligence prevents 3 major incidents in 6 months. She wants extraction. You request approval. Command delays. She sends another file. You request again. Command delays again. Then Irina makes a mistake. She attends a private auction in Rotterdam and notices someone watching her. Her next message contains only 5 words. They know I am yours. You have 40 minutes to decide. Extracting her burns 2 other sources. Leaving her preserves access to the network. You already know what headquarters wants. They want the network. They want the intelligence stream. They want you to say it first so the responsibility becomes yours. At Level 5, you learn the 5th rule. The system prefers sacrifices made by people with steady voices. You mark Irina as compromised, but non-recoverable. The phrase appears clean on the report. It does not feel clean. For 3 days, no one hears from her. On the 4th, a package arrives at a Foundation front office in Brussels. Inside is an encrypted drive containing one final auction list. Irina sends it before disappearing. The intelligence saves 96 people during a raid 2 weeks later. Everyone calls it a successful outcome. You stop correcting them. Blacksite work earns you influence. Counterintelligence agents send you whispers. Field officers ask for your advice. Station chiefs request your assets by code name. Your reports reach desks with no names attached. You become valuable because you know where secrets move between organizations. You become dangerous because you know which secrets the Foundation lets move on purpose. Level 6. Internal Security Commander. The interrogation room is colder than necessary. That is intentional. At Level 6, you become an Internal Security Commander. You do not chase every leak anymore. You decide which leaks are worth chasing. You command personnel who monitor Foundation staff, investigate compromised sites, authorize loyalty audits, oversee amnestic reviews, and determine when a researcher, guard, administrator, or director becomes a containment risk. Your office sits behind 2 biometric doors inside Site 01's lower administrative wing. You have 36 direct reports, access to 82 restricted personnel files, and authority to suspend clearance up to Level 4 without external approval. People become careful around you, not respectful. Careful. There is a difference. Your first major crisis begins at Site-64 after a containment breach kills no one but exposes too much. The anomaly is recovered within 9 minutes. The problem is the footage. Someone inside the site exports internal camera files to an outside server before the lockdown completes. The suspect list contains 118 names. You narrow it to 7, then 3, then 1. Dr. Elias Moreau, senior researcher, 15 years of service, decorated twice, widowed, no disciplinary history. He does not sell the footage. He sends it to himself. That makes it worse. During questioning, he says the Foundation has no right to bury what happened. He says people working inside the sites deserve to know how often leadership lies about survivability estimates. He says secrecy is no longer containment when it protects embarrassment. Part of you agrees. That is dangerous. You approve a full memory extraction review. The procedure confirms he sends the file nowhere else. No chaos connection. No GOC influence. No hostile manipulation. Just conscience. The committee asks for your recommendation. You can demote him, erase the last year, or classify him as ideologically compromised and transfer him to permanent containment-adjacent observation. You choose the third option, because conscience, once it opposes the system, becomes unpredictable. At Level 6, your authority is no longer about catching enemies. It is about defining them. That changes something permanent inside you. You stop thinking in terms of innocent and guilty. You think in terms of stable and unstable, useful and dangerous, recoverable and non-recoverable. Your signature now alters lives in ways they may never remember. You approve amnestic schedules for entire departments. You seal files from families of dead personnel. You remove names from promotion lists because their emotional attachments create leverage risks. You protect the Foundation. And every month, the word protect becomes harder to separate from control. Level 7. 05 Intelligence Liaison. The elevator descends for 7 minutes. There are no floor numbers, only silence. At Level 7, you become 05 Intelligence Liaison. You're no longer just inside the system. You stand near the center of it. The 05 Council does not ask for all information. That surprises you. They ask for the information that matters before everyone else realizes it matters. Your job is to filter the impossible. Every morning, intelligence from across the world reaches your office. Containment forecasts, GOI movements, anomaly market trends, internal security alerts, blacksite reports, cult activity, recovered memetic fragments, hostile infiltration attempts, and political incidents requiring memory alteration on a national scale. You decide what reaches the Council. You decide what waits. You decide what dies in redaction. That is power of a different kind, not the power to act, the power to shape what action becomes thinkable. At Level 7, you learn the highest form of leverage is context. A fact alone is weak. A fact placed correctly can redirect armies, erase careers, activate MTF units, collapse negotiations, or convince the 05 Council to authorize decisions no one else even knows are possible. You meet them only behind glass, sometimes only through voice. 13 silhouettes, 13 unknown histories, 13 people who speak about civilization like it is a patient on an operating table. They ask precise questions. How many witnesses remain untreated? Which GOC director knows about the failed containment zone? Can the serpent's hand leak be turned against MC and D? Is the chaos cell compromised enough to feed false intelligence without revealing the source? You answer without hesitation. That is why you are there. Your moral compromises become strategic. You approve a controlled leak to the GOC so they eliminate an anomaly the Foundation cannot publicly destroy. You allow Marshall, Carter, and Dark to complete an auction because every buyer in the room is being tracked. You bury evidence of an internal failure because revealing it would fracture 3 active containment partnerships. You tell yourself that truth must be rationed. At this level, even honesty becomes a resource. Your life outside the Foundation vanishes completely. No family contact without monitoring, no unapproved travel, no personal devices, no unscheduled medical care. Your memories are periodically checked for contamination, manipulation, and unauthorized emotional influence. Power increases. Freedom disappears. The illusion of control becomes almost convincing. Then a report arrives from a blacksite in Greenland. A source claims one O5 member has been compromised for 12 years. You read the evidence alone. Your hands do not shake. That is how you know Level 7 has changed you. Level 8, Director of Foundation Intelligence. The file has no title, only your name, printed in black ink on white paper. At Level 8, you become Director of Foundation Intelligence, the highest chair in the quietest war on Earth. You no longer manage investigations. You manage awareness itself. Every major secret inside the Foundation eventually crosses your desk. Every hostile group of interest, every buried breach, every erased town, every asset inside enemy networks, every double agent pretending loyalty in both directions. Every O5 request that must not exist in writing. People think the Foundation contains anomalies. You know containment is only half the work. The other half is deciding who gets to remember that anomalies exist. Your office is not large. That disappoints some visitors. They expect power to look ceremonial. Marble floors, armed guards, dramatic windows. Instead, your office sits behind a plain gray corridor inside a site that officially does not exist. 1 desk, 2 chairs, a secure terminal, a wall map with no country borders, only incident clusters, surveillance zones, and invisible pressure points where the anomalous world pushes against the ordinary one. The simplicity is deliberate. At the top, decoration becomes weakness. Your days begin before dawn. A Chaos Insurgency fragment attempts to recruit a Site-22 engineer. A GOC commander requests unofficial coordination near an unstable anomaly in Kazakhstan. A Serpent's Hand cell prepares to expose a Foundation memory operation. An MC&D broker offers information in exchange for permission to sell something harmless enough to ignore and dangerous enough to matter. An O5 member asks what you know. They never specify about what. You answer carefully. Everyone below you thinks the director knows the truth. That is not accurate. You know the competing versions of it. You know which truths are useful, which are fatal, which are incomplete, and which have to remain buried because the Foundation survives on controlled ignorance as much as controlled knowledge. At Level 8, the final rule becomes clear. Ultimate intelligence is not knowing everything. It is knowing what no one else can be allowed to know. The cost is isolation beyond rank. People fear your questions. Friends become impossible. Trust becomes administrative. Even the O5 Council treats you like an instrument they cannot safely discard. You are too informed to retire, too valuable to imprison, too dangerous to leave unobserved. Your life becomes a containment procedure with a human face. Old memories visit at strange times. Daniel Mercer, the bus driver, forgetting the impossible. Harold in the school gym, asking where his neighbor went. The traitor under the Prague station, realizing you found him. Irina Vale, sending one final file before vanishing. Dr. Moreau, punished not because he lies, but because he tells the truth in the wrong direction. You do not see them as ghosts. You see them as entries in the structure that brings you here. Every level takes something. Fear, then pity, then honesty, then loyalty, then freedom. At the top, ambition finally reveals its trick. You spend your life climbing toward control, only to discover that the system now controls what you are allowed to be. One night, at 3:17 a.m., a notification appears on your terminal. Candidate approved for Intelligence Archive intake. 23 years old. Pattern recognition above threshold. Limited external attachments. High tolerance for classified exposure. No known anomalous contamination. You open the file. The photograph shows someone young enough to still believe secrecy is a door leading upward. You approve the contact. Across the country, in a small apartment, a phone begins to ring. A new recruit wakes up confused. A black car waits outside. They do not know about witness reports, surveillance rooms, field cleanups, internal traders, black sites, O5 briefings, memory audits, or the quiet office where names become decisions. They think they are being chosen. You know better. They are being absorbed. The phone keeps ringing. Eventually, they answer, and the Foundation begins again.